That's it. That's the spirit.
Okay. Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are joining us from, welcome to the first edition in December. It could also be the last edition for the year 2025. So this is the Purpose YOU Talkshow. My name is Mr. Purpose International, founder of Africa's premier and leading Purpose Discovery Academy from Africa to the world. And I'm excited about tonight's show because of the very guest that I will be interviewing, having a conversation with. Wow. But before I tell you about this awesome, phenomenal, exceptional guest of mine, I want you to just soak your spirit with the music ministry of Minister Dunsi Oyekon, who we share the same birth year. So you see, God sent a lot of great men in the year 1984. So just enjoy this song while we wait for more people to join. If you're joining us from Nigeria, please indicate in the comment section where you're joining from, which part of this great nation you're joining from, or wherever you're joining from all over Africa and our friends from all over the world. Tonight's edition will leave a lasting impact, I believe, on your minds, especially for our female viewers, and also the men who believe in the greatness that God has placed in every individual. So your gender should not limit you. Your gender should not set a limit or a barrier to who you become. I'm going to read her profile in a bit. Then I would invite her into the live conversation. What we are talking about tonight is rewriting your history, and this song succinctly talks about not remaining ordinary. Oh yes, that was our due. I can be less than what you made me. I can be less than what you made me. So please, wherever you're joining from, can you put that in the comment section? Ifunaya Eze, thank you for joining all the way from Russia. This is one of my favorite worship songs. I worship you with all my heart. And please, if you have already joined, can you send this link to your contacts on your contact list that a great conversation that will surely transform you is about to kick off. Yes, I'm wearing a shirt that a Ugandan friend gave my wife and I. And behind this shirt is written Mr. Purpose International at Jesse number 9, because I'm scoring goals in my own field at the frequency of light. I thought somebody thought I was going to say Cristiano Ronaldo. Well, he's on his way out of the field of soccer, but I'm scoring goals in the field of personal development, coaching, purpose discovery, and the likes. Worship you. So if you believe that you will not be less than what you made me for, please type that in the comment section, that I can't be less than what you made me to be. I won't be lesser than the great person you made me to be. And greatness begins at the discovery of our life's purpose. And one of the ways that you show that you are truly a worshiper of the Almighty God is not just when you lift up holy hands in church and you sing those very solemn songs on a Sunday in your church. It is what you do between Monday and Saturday, how you live your life, how you fight the good fight of faith, how you go against the norm, how you attack every form of lack in your life, how you turn an ordinary situation into an extraordinary opportunity for God to be glorified. You know, somebody like David, he was just sent on an errand to give his brothers food. He was not prepared for a fight, and that day he saw Goliath threatening and harassing God's army, rather Saul's army, and David, unplanned, but turned that opportunity into a platform for him to transform the rest of his life story. That's what we're talking about tonight, how to rewrite your history, how to turn ordinary moments, ordinary opportunities into great testimonies. All right, I'm sure that our guest is already fired up. I know her from way back 20 years and counting. So I'll read her profile before I invite her into the live. Or maybe I should read her profile when she's live. Okay, I think I'll do that when she's live so that we can see the beautiful face of this phenomenal lady. All right, Iddy, I just tried to invite you. I'm made for impact. All right, Iddy, I'm going to ask you to please use the request to join live button. So can you do that so that I can accept you from here? Godwin Iyinaya, thank you for joining. I think that is my friend also from way back in university. We call each other the genius. Thank you for joining. I think all the way from Akwa Ibom or Cross River, somewhere in the southern part of Nigeria. Okay, I don't have any request here to join. Iddy, if you can hear me, okay, let me just search for her. Yeah. Okay. Request for you to join. You. So, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're joining from tonight, I want to reassure you that God made you for a great purpose. That purpose, when discovered, empowers you to rewrite your history, empowers you to turn any challenge or test that life throws at you into both teenagers, and I have watched how she has evolved into who she has become today, going against all the, okay. Yeah. All right, I've accepted your request to join. All right, the network is going to work. While we wait for that to happen, let me begin by talking about a coaching program that we have for anyone under the age of 25 for the year 2025. You have an opportunity to be mentored and coached by me and 6 other fantastic coaches in the year 2025. That program is themed SOAR with Mr. Purpose International. That program is going to run from January to November. We speak over this network to work in Jesus' name.
Hi, Mr. Purpose.
Hey, finally. Finally,
So there's a
finally.
little bit of glitch there.
So good to see you. So good to have you here.
See you too. Good to see you
Wow.
too. Wow.
Uh, as always, you look fabulous. Your camera just turned sideways. So how it was before was, yeah, perfecto. Perfect.
Okay. Can
All
you hear me
right.
clearly?
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Fantastic.
Loud.
Fantastic.
All right, so distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we're about to take off on an altitude of inspiration, insight, and rare information that will transform your life. So let me read the profile of my guest, and we'll start off the conversation. So Iddy Palmer is an author, composer, founder of OVO. OVO is an acronym she'll tell us about, a financial literacy and advocacy platform. Its purpose is to promote financial decisions, education, and financial education and provide a platform where pertinent money management skills are nurtured. She is also the lead volunteer of POP Foundation. POP, I believe, stands for Prince Olga Palmer Foundation, whose core focus is supporting education, endeavor, and enterprise. In her professional capacity, ID is a human resources management expert and a certified management consultant with combined, wait for it, people, 16 years working experience. I know she looks like a sweet 16, like a teenager, but she has over 16 years working experience in the professional services and oil and gas sector. So she's chopping oil money. You can see it all over her, right? She is a transformational coach who helps her clients rewrite their realities and achieve significant changes in their lives. ID holds a bachelor's honors degree in accounting. I'm sure some people were wondering or will be expecting human resource management or something. In accounting, she's a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultant, that's MCN, a member of both the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, CIPM. I belong to that institute as well, but I didn't go up the ladder. The Nigerian Institute of Training and Development, NITAD. And I also know she's also a member of Alliance of Change Empowerment Speakers of Nigeria. She's also a certificate holder from the Speakers Empowerment Academy and several public speaking certifications. Ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not busy, can you please give ID Palmer a digital applause from wherever we're joining from?
Thank you
Woo!
very much. Thank you very
Wow.
much.
Wow. So good to have you. So good to have you. So good to have you.
Absolutely.
So I said before you came on live that we've known each other well, 21 years and counting, 2 decades and more. 2 decades and more. I think 2002 was the first time I set eyes on you, and I was wondering, who is this girl with the long hair? And the first time you talk, I was like, oh, she's also very intelligent. And that was where our friendship began. So, welcome on board. How was your day? You live in PortnHarcourt. The
Yes,
city is not as big as Lagos. So, tell us, how was your day in PortnHarcourt today?
it was a pretty good day. Weather was perfect. Good day all in all, it was a good day. It was a good day.
All right, all right. So, a lot of people are itching for us to dive right into the conversation.
Let's
But
do.
it, it will be good for us to take off from the very foundation. Who is ID Palmer? A lot of people are watching and are seeing you for the first time on our platform. Maybe some of your followers already know you, but for the benefit of those who have never seen or met you before, please can you tell us who you are in a short breath?
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Purpose. And I also want to say thank you to Naya Eze, who, yes, thank you for welcoming me on this platform. You've already read my profile. Thank you for that. I would say, simply put, Iddy Palmer is a spirit-filled child of God who is committed to living a meaningful and intentional life, helping others and making a positive impact in my community.
Mm.
Thinking about it, my personal purpose is to continuously grow whilst empowering, inspiring, and enlightening others to be better versions of themselves. I do this across all the things that I do. Like you mentioned, I'm an HR professional, I'm a trainer. I dare say I'm a teacher. I teach in church, I teach children and teenage. I am also a coach, like you mentioned. So across all of these platforms, all I do is to ensure that whoever has an encounter with me is either empowered, inspired, or enlightened to be better versions of themselves.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. All right. As an organization, we like to help young people, especially from the age in their secondary school years, especially to ensure that they make choices that are born out of purpose discovery, like choices like the course to study, the
Okay?
universities to go to, and those kind of things. So we kind of dropped our net in the secondary school sector of the educational sector, secondary school system. So, and in the past 15 years, we've discovered that every time we run the Purpose Discovery Academy, most of the attendees come out of that experience and say, oh, we wish we had gone through this program before we sat for JAM or before we wrote WAEC. And many of them who are bold enough make that U-turn or navigate out of the traditional choices that were made for them to get on a more intentional path that is born out of this self-discovery. So for you, tell us about your childhood, tell us about your educational history, and are you amongst those who studied what their parents wanted them to study, and then later in life discovered yourself and you navigated into what you are doing now? So did your childhood prepare you for what you are doing today and your educational background? Just give us a bit history into that.
I have a unique story to tell. So growing up, I attended a boarding school. I had the opportunity to do both art and sciences because I was naturally curious. But I knew that innately, my interest laid more with art. I was always very
Okay.
certain about that and all. But it's interesting that by the time it was time to write WAEC at the time, um, I wanted to go for the arts. But
Wow.
at the time, yes, at the time, my dad felt that, the typical Nigerian parent, he felt that, oh, maybe that would be a waste of all of your intelligence since you were excelling in sciences. But I was able to convince him, and he was fine until I told him the course I wanted to study, which was
Which
mass
one?
communication.
Yeah.
Mass communication, and that was where he drew the line. So it would be unfair to say he chose my course. He didn't, but I would be correct to say he didn't. My dad did not allow me study the course I would have preferred to go for. So
Okay.
by the time the preferred was off the table, I just took the available. And to be
Okay.
honest, reading accounting was really based on influence. My dad was a chartered accountant. My elder sister was an accountant. So it was something that I was familiar with, conversant with, discussions in the house. I was very sure the courses I didn't want to read. So I was like, okay, I've been hearing this, no problem. he was very clear. You would not do mass communication for his own reasons and all. So I decided, okay, I'll do that. And of course, you can imagine that when I told him I was going to study the course that he read, he was super proud and willing to support me and all of that. And that was how I ended up reading the course. Did it prepare me for what I am doing today? I just want to think about that. I have never had to work with my degree, my BSc accounting. I have never had to do that. I would like to reframe the question to say it might not have prepared me for what I'm doing today, but it's very relevant for my journey so far. Yes, so that's it. It's been relevant. Looking back, taking me the journey comprehensively, it's relevant.
Wow, fantastic. So, well, I think you've already answered what would have been my next question, which is, did what you study, did it prepare you in some way, which you have answered? Okay, so now that means your voyage into studying accounting was influenced more by what was familiar.
What was familiar?
And so at what point did you discover your personal purpose? Was it as an undergraduate student? Was it when you were in secondary school? Or was it when you were done with the adventure with accounting? Because I know some adults today who told me while I was in university, I hated what I was doing. So my grades were not so great. But I know you from way back, and I know you were one of the best students that graduated from that course. So what would be your advice to maybe a young teenager watching right now who has found him or herself, but the parents have now used their parental power, authority, and also because they are the ones paying the bills, to say, hey, look here, my child, you studied this or nothing. And the child already knows that this is not my path in life. And some of these young people will now deliberately rebel and want to do very badly in that path. Maybe to make the parents realize that I told you this was not what I'm supposed to be doing. So what do you have to say to those kind of young people watching this? And then how were you able to manage that season of your life? Though you know this was not the preferred, this was not the desired, but you still did great at it anyway. How were you able to do both at the same time?
Okay. Looking back, and to tie the questions together, if anyone is in that situation right now, first and foremost, I can boldly say that I can empathize, I can relate, because that was my story and all. I would advise that first, you have to trust your own process. You ask the question, when did you discover your purpose? And knowing you very well, I mean, you are Mr. Purpose. I know that there is a distinction between discovering your purpose and choosing a career path. First and foremost, we'll have to agree that they are two separate things. So in terms of purpose, you will have to first and foremost trust the process. And part of trusting the process for me was trusting that God was intentional about me and that everything that happens to me is for my good. That's what I mean. You have to, there are some things that you will have to settle. Personally, I had to settle it with God, that I trust you and I know that you have a plan for my life, a plan for good and not for evil, to bring me to my expected end. And at that point, I'm one of those people who I could be very, very logical. So I came to that point where I had to realize that choosing what I wanted to do was out of my control, because I had made the attempt and that decision had been taken away from me and all. I made the singular decision that I was going to excel at it regardless. But whilst doing that, I was also going to pursue my own path. I mean, this is something you are familiar with. because you know me from way back. So whilst doing the course, even though it was not the preferred, I was engaging in other activities that aligned with my personal purpose. So to answer the question, how did I discover my purpose? It's quite a unique journey. I have often thought growing up that discovering a purpose is an epiphanic moment.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Just give me a moment, please.
that's fine. Hi, Toy. Nice to have you join us.
Sorry for that break in transmission. Just had to
That's fine.
quickly take. All right, so I just saw Tony, one of our friends from way back. Tony, thank you for coming online. I sent her the broadcast like 20 minutes to our takeoff. So Tony,
Oh, wow.
thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining, Toy.
All right, so continue from where you stopped. Sorry for that break.
Okay, so I was saying that growing up, I thought discovering your purpose was going to be an epiphanic moment where you hear the voice of God, my daughter, this is what I have created you to do, and all of that. And maybe I really desired that. I just felt like if I could get that experience, more like a Saul to Paul experience, then I am sure I'm in the path of God and all of that. And I never quite had that experience. I knew quite a few people who growing up, they always knew what they wanted to do. Mine was also worsened by the fact that I had varied talents. I could do quite a number of things. And the question was, which one am I supposed to concentrate on? Which one? And I had a season where I was unclear, where I was confused. I had a season where I was unsure of what path I was to take. But I would say this, I guess for me, my personal story, in finding myself, I deepened my relationship with God. And in deepening my relationship with God, I found purpose. In that process, it got to the point where since I wasn't getting the divine answer, the divine push on what path to take, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to spend time discovering who am I as a person. What are my interests? What are my talents? What are my skills? What skills do I possess? What are my competencies? What are my innate skills and what are my interests? I was very concerned about those two things.
Was there a time in those seasons that you considered, or maybe people try to push you into modeling because of the obvious beauty that you have been blessed by God with? Honestly, did anybody suggest that, or did you consider that at that time as well, to go into modeling as a full-time career?
Well, Mr. Purpose, you know this. You know that whilst we were in school, I modeled for a bit. But thinking of it in terms of a full-time career, not exactly. Not exactly, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But at the time when I was modeling, I would say I was already on the path of self-discovery. I already knew that. I already knew the things that I love to do. I knew that I love to teach, I love to write, I love to, I love to present. There were times that I dabbled into talk show presenting and all of those. So there was a lot of audio, a lot of talking that modeling would not have given. I'm just giving you the reason why I never quite considered modeling, even though at the time it paid some bills and all. But for me, it was, what do I love to do? What has God created me to do? Who am I? And then in discovering that, in the process of finding myself, that I just want to reiterate the last line that I said. In finding myself, I found God, I found purpose. Because the more I was curious, yes, the more I was curious in knowing who I really was, I knew that I had to go back to my creator, who has the original manual, who has the original intention. And that deepened my relationship with God. And in that process, I would say everything started to fall in place. So at what point
Wow.
exactly? Purpose and career. I would explain it this way. In terms of purpose, I would say I found my purpose when I was in school, doing a course that I did not choose. With
That's
the people I exposed myself to,
okay.
with the books I was reading, with the
Okay.
trainings I undertook, I was able to quickly find out very early in my journey where my interest laid and what skills that I possessed. And as soon as I came into the marketplace, it was easy for me to quickly do a search or a research to see which department, which career, which profession easily aligns
With those
with my
interests, with the
talent.
passion.
Yes.
Wow. Now you've set the tone for the very next question that is on my heart, which is you finished as an accounting student. How were you able to access the opportunities in the HR industry, right? This industry you have grown and you're one of the experts in Nigeria today. And I do not say that to flatter her. It's the fact. These are facts that can be traced back to all the places she has worked in. So, but now let's start with this first question. What would you say is more important to an undergraduate or a final year student now that's about to, exit the four walls of the university, whether private, whether federal, whether state, but then you have this future ahead of you and several opportunities are calling for your attention. What would you say is more important, finding a well-paying job or finding a well-aligned job to your life's purpose? What would you say is more important? With the realities of Nigeria of today, and then try and do a flashback to you dropped the pen, final exam paper. What was influencing your decision at that time? To just get a well-paying job to pay my bills. Later, I'll sort out a job to align to my purpose. Or did you think about it for a bit that, okay, from all the opportunities before me, which door did you go knock first? The door of a well-paying job or the door of a well-aligned job? And what would you advise a young person of today?
I knocked on the door of the available, if I must be honest.
Wow.
I picked what was available. I realized that first and foremost, I mean, when you're done from school, we all know this. The next thing you want is you want to be able to put your talents out there and get paid for it. And sometimes the job market can be really crazy. It's something that quite a number of people can relate to. And or if you were to sit at home looking for the best well-paying job out there, you might be waiting forever. If you were also to sit at home waiting for the job that aligns with your skills and your talents, it might be a subtle wait as well. For me, I had a decision to make. I believe that the first job, I believe that, and I knew that at the time, I just needed an opener into the corporate space because I was now clear that I would want to go by the way of being a professional working in the corporate world and all. For me, any door was good enough.
Wow.
Because it was just an opener.
Good enough.
Absolutely.
Wow. Are you willing to share what door what the first job was? Are you willing to share?
Oh, yes. The first job I took was as a sales rep, a sales executive. Yes,
Wow.
with a
Wow.
retail company. Because for me, it
Wow.
was just to get my leg in there. It was just to start. And this is what I advise a lot of young ones around me. I've had situations where I've had people come to me, oh, I have a 2-1 in this course from this university and all of that. This is what I think I deserve. And they've spent years at home waiting for what they think they deserve. A lot of times I tell them, take what is available. Most times, all you need is a leg in. All you need is a leg in. In my case, I took the job as a sales rep, working on the shop floor, but
Wow.
I was never even clear what the goals were, what the plans were, because I had settled that with me. Write the vision, make it plain. I knew where I was headed, and I knew that I just needed that door open. I just needed one leg in, and every
Mm.
other thing would sort itself out. When I got that opportunity, whilst doing the job that was available, don't forget, I started with doing the course that was available in the institution that was available. Now I'm done. Yes, now I'm done, and I'm taking the job that is also
That was
available.
available.
But
Wow.
as soon as I had that job, instantly, I ensured that I was proactive. I volunteered in the departments that
Of
I
your
thought I wanted
interest.
to work in. Yes,
Yeah.
that I had my interest in. I started to volunteer. I started to do free jobs. It felt
Wow.
like, oh, you didn't need to do it. That's too much work. I knew what the plan was. So if
Wow.
you need,
Let me let me,
okay,
let me just quickly highlight what you just what this story. I just want to quickly highlight the principle that we teach young people. It's called the principle of um, the law of entrance. Yes, that's what it's called. The law of
absolutely.
entrance. And we explain it to young people this way that for those watching from outside Nigeria, in Nigeria, the transportation system is not as organized as what you have in UK, US, where you have a ticket in advance and then you arrive at the bus park and your bus is right there on time to pick you. In Lagos, Nigeria, and maybe in any other part of Nigeria, when you get to the bus stop or the bus park, you will find about maybe 50 people waiting for the available bus. And when the bus comes, the mass transit buses usually have maybe at best 30 comfortable seats. But you find that those 30 seats are taken by 60 people sitting, and then 30 extra people standing in those buses, and then you are rushing to school or to your job, and they have told you you must not be late. So when you're standing at the bus stop and the available bus comes, if there's an available slot for you to stand, we always advise you jump in that bus, hoping that before you get to your final destination, somebody
That's what
somehow
I
will
said.
pop up and then you find a more comfortable sitting position. But if you don't
Yes,
make an entrance into that bus, you would not be in a vantage position to see the opportunities within the industry of your desire.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's the principle that you activated way back
Way
at
back
that time.
then. Way
That
back
time.
then. Yes.
So wow. So kudos. Now I know why your name means Sophia, which is wisdom. Wow, great. I'm enjoying this. I'm taking notes, by the way.
No,
You
that's
you you
fine.
you took the available course, went through the
In the
available
institution,
institution, and then when you were done there, you
took
knocked
the
on the available
available
door.
opportunity.
But you were doing all these things as if you were doing the desirable.
Yes.
So tell us about that. Tell us about that. What was
Okay.
influencing the mindset at that time? This was 2002, 2003, 2004. Knowledge was not as available as it is now in terms of inspiration, motivation. On your phones, you can Google, you can go on YouTube, watch inspirational videos. But that time, it wasn't so much It wasn't
Yeah.
so available. So what was your secret, ID? Tell us. What was influencing your mind at that time?
So I'm going to share a secret. And the secret of one or two people who are on this call today. If you remember, we used to have like a mastermind group. So
Yeah,
even way back then, we were already purpose driven.
yeah.
It was a number of people. I keep telling people that um, the people I've met, the books I've read, has been the most relevant to my journey. I
Mm.
was I was I was privileged to have like-minded friends and all. What was influencing me? It was the exposures that I had around me, the people that I had around me. I remember that as a group, we would go for the available trainings. We would share the book we had amongst ourselves. We
Yeah.
would take time out to even discuss it. So I
Mm-hmm.
was already aware of the need to plan. Way back then, we're talking about 1 year goals, 3 year goals, 5 year goals, 10 year goals, 15 year goals to 20 year goals. So
Wow.
by the time I was done with school and I was in the marketplace, I had a pretty clear idea of what I wanted to do and where I was going to. So whilst I
Yeah.
was doing the available, I was giving it my all because I was very clear of the fact that this was just the beginning. This is not the end.
Yeah.
This is not the
Yeah.
final story.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's just a path to where I want to get to. And that was
Mm.
why volunteering was easy. I tell you this, Mr. Purpose, in almost all the places that I've worked, I have been teased that, oh, why are you working like this? Why are you working as though your umbilical cord is buried under this company? Why are you working like your life depends on it? Because I know where I'm headed. I know that way leads onto way, and it will lead me to where I want to
Mm.
go eventually. I was
Way-
very clear
You say that
today
way leads on to
onto
way.
way, and I will
Wow.
eventually get to where I was going to. I had a definiteness of purpose. It was as clear as day. And that's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
till today, I believe in the power of imagination. I believe that everything happens twice. First in your head before it
Yeah.
happens in the physical. So it didn't matter
Definitely.
what I was doing in the physical.
Def-
I was in my head. I was in the picture that I was seeing. I knew that I was a successful professional. Regardless of what I'm doing now, this is just a preparatory process to where I want to get to eventually. And do you know how that helped me? Because I
mm.
would often volunteer, because I would often go out of my way to help with other departments and all, it made interviews very easy for me. Because every time I had to take an interview that would lead me to the next step of my journey, I had
Yeah.
core experiences, personal experiences that I had gained from
Wow.
volunteering.
Wow. Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, let me let the cat out of the bag at this point in time. That Iddy Palmer will be one of the coaches next year on our group coaching mastermind program for 25 young adults. It's themed Soar with Mr. Purpose International. I think I should rename it Soar with Mr. Purpose and Friends. Because I'm combining my expertise with 6 other expert coaches to hold 25 young people, hold you in the hand, and guide you through the unstable waters of making your own inspired decisions on who you ought to be, from where you are to who you ought to be. Next year will also be 25 years of me walking with the Lord Jesus Christ. So he put that on my heart to mentor 25, to pour our lives into 25 young adults from any part of the world. You can register for it. The link to register is on my bio, or you can send a DM to Naya Eze, who is my executive assistant. ID is a story of grace, of grit, grace, audacious audacity to challenge the odds, and she's a fine executive today. Now, I studied human resource management, and I never followed that path. You, my friend, studied accounting, and we're here counting the years, and you've been counting the money in HR. And it's such a very important lesson to learn, that especially for young ladies. I like to tell young ladies this, that it is better to be productive as a lady than to be seductive. Like, a productive lady is more attractive than a seductive lady. Because when ladies want to attract, sorry, not ladies, when the cheap ladies, the cheap ones, when they want to attract either guys for a relationship, or they want to get access to corporate opportunities, there's this saying in Africa that you use what you have to get what you want, you know. So you were able to combine your intellectual resources and your spiritual resources to get those opportunities. So what would you advise the young person now talking to you? Say, Coach ID, what I'm hired to do is not what I desire to do, but I have the credentials for it. That's what I studied in school. I have a first class, I have a 2-1, and opportunities are lined up. My parents even have used their connections, but I detest being trapped on the wrong job. But I have the CV for the job, but I don't have the EV, which is the emotional emotional quotient for the job. So what would you tell such a person? This person now has what others will call great opportunities to soar in a career, but the person wants to go into maybe fashion. The person wants to go into baking. The person wants to go into shoemaking. And the parents are like, are you out of your mind? I sent you to school. I paid your bills. And now you want to disappoint me before my friends? I don't want to hear that nonsense. You better take that job, or you get out of my house. Well, how would you advise such a young person? Maybe the person is 22, the person is 21, maybe it's 23. What would you say to such a person? Has the credentials for the job, but their natural potential is pointing
somewhere
exactly
else.
opposite. Yeah.
The first thing I will say is, to thy own self be true.
Mm.
That's a book that I read. It was life-changing. The title of the book is Tell Yourself the Truth.
Wow.
You get to a point, yes, tell yourself the truth. You get to a point in your life where you can no longer use your parents as an excuse. You get to that point where you can it's no longer acceptable to use your parents or your upbringing as an excuse anymore, especially when you become an adult. If there's anyone who's going through that challenge, I will say again, tell yourself the truth. To their own self, be true. And this is what I mean, Mr. Noah, Mr. Purpose. The first time.
I love it.
Do, because you have to. Can you hear me, Mr. Purpose? Can you hear me? Okay. The network is clear now.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
You can go on.
Yes, I was saying that the first thing is telling yourself the truth, and I needed to explain what I mean by that. How much do you want it? Because you have to be clear. I think the network is fluctuating. Hi, Mr. Purpose.
How much do you want it?
How much do you want it. And the reason why that is key is to know that there will be challenges on the path to success, either whichever choice you pick. And if you are clear that you want it enough, I mean, one thing, definiteness of purpose, then are you willing to give it all of the focus required,
Mm.
forgetting everything else? If the answer is yes to all of these questions that I've asked, I would have to say it gets to that point where you just have to branch out. Because I had to do that. It got to that point where I had to make that decision to say, yes, I have had to take all the things that were available, but I am very certain now that this is the path that I want to go on. And it doesn't matter how difficult it is. And that was it. That was
Mm.
It was difficult at the beginning. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's going to be all
Well,
rosy and easy. Of course, it is. Of course,
yeah.
it won't be easy. In my case, I had to pay for all of my professional courses. Don't forget that I didn't have a background in HR. And because my dad would have preferred that I majored in accounting, he wasn't willing to support any further.
Fund your vision,
Yes,
fund your dream.
yes, not because he didn't love me. He just felt that, are you sure this is the path you want to take? And all of that. But because I was certain, I made the audacious decision to put everything
You
all
know,
in.
in Africa, there's this saying that the older people, now we're among the older people now. Imagine, ID. Just a few years ago, where the teenagers. So there's this saying amongst the, let me use the word elderly people in Africa, that when a young person stands, what he sees cannot be compared to what an elderly person will see even when they are sitting. And they say that in such a condescending way at times that it has robbed young people of the capacity to have vision. Vision is an intangible picture of a desirable future, but it is going to be very clear. You don't have proof, but it is clear.
Clear
You
as
don't
day.
have evidence, but it is clear. You cannot explain it in logical terms, but you are just so convinced, you are fully persuaded that there is an invisible future with you in it, with your name in it, and there is glory in it, there's riches in it. It's going to make even your parents proud, but you may not be able to even articulate it.
At the time.
So that's as at that time that you are at the beginning phase of that vision. So I usually tell young people that, see, if the path is beautiful, before you get on the path, ask where it leads. But if the destination is beautiful, then don't mind the path. If the path,
I agree.
if the path is beautiful, ask where it leads. Some beautiful paths lead to a destructive end,
Absolutely.
lead into a trap,
Absolutely.
lead into a roadblock. But if the destination is beautiful, and the only way you would be able to see that destination is through the eyes of your imagination.
Imagination.
Which comes from the power of having vision. You know,
Vision
so
and purpose.
For you, I remember that you've always been a young girl with so much determination, willpower. Even though you look, the things you did were way bigger than the physical frame that people, at that time. I know you've grown bigger now and all of that, but I used to look at you and I used to wonder, what's driving this girl? One day I remember, permit me to use this example. One day you decided to walk from, I think, from your house to school, or from school. I can't, maybe you can share that experience, just because maybe you wanted to get to a conference or something. There was a sacrifice you paid at that time, and I was so inspired. Like, this is what I call self-leadership. This young lady, yeah, I know. I was like, yeah, for my friend at that time, the qualities you displayed for yourself, to lead yourself, is what usually determines who I want to choose into my company. So you made a decision back then. I don't know if you can remember. So if you can share that story again, you decided to walk a distance that for a pretty young girl, all you had to do was stand on the roadside with your hands up like this and flag down a car for a ride. So what were the can you go back a bit in history and tell the young girl watching now, what's the shortest route to success? What's the shortest route to success? Is it your beautiful face? Or yeah. Or so tell us.
The shortest route to success is smart work.
Smart work.
I was very deliberate not to say hard work. Smart work.
Yeah.
And it's because of all of the keys to smart. The first and the most critical, specificity. If you know where you are headed, the journey is already half spent. Because you will not waste time. You will not waste time giving time or attention to distractions.
Yeah.
And then you will not also lose time trying everything along your path.
Because so that's why
yes. There's a quote that I read in a book that shaped me way back then. It says that for the man who knows where he is going, for the woman who knows where he is going, for the man or the woman who knows where they are going, the world will create a path
for you.
And this is the imagery. Imagine that you're in a stadium filled up with people and you are at the very end. You have no idea where you want to go and all. Imagine a stadium. Imagine everyone pressing and all. You will keep moving into the available spaces and all. But I tell you, Mr. Purpose, if they put you at the back of a stadium with a mass, a crowd of people in front of you, and you are determined that you want to get to the front, you will stay on course. You will stay on course. Excuse me, because you are very clear where you want to go. You're very clear where you are headed. And I think that that's what helped me. I caught the vision very early. You were describing what a personal vision is. It must be as clear as your face in the mirror.
Must be as clear as
your face in the mirror. As clear as your face in the mirror. You can see it in colors, not in black and white. When you've settled that, you have done 50% of the work. That is the shortest route to success. In terms of faith decisions that I've taken, I think that my success story is rooted in God. It will not be complete without returning all of the glory back to God. And I'm not trying to be spiritual. It's actually the fact, is the truth and all. What helped me making all of those daring things you remember me doing? It was because I had settled it that one, God has equipped me to be the best that I can be. I had all it took to be the best that I could be. So I never wake up seeing limitations. I remember a particular verse of the Bible that I held on to in going for interviews that I did not qualify for. It's in the book of Romans. It says that it is God who qualifies us. I remember seeing that verse and I'm like, okay, so it's not about my degree. It's not about my connections.
You took the word of God literally and acted to pursue opportunity. I was about to ask you.
Every opportunity.
You just took the question out of my mouth. Now, what can you share maybe one or two of the most significant moments in your life where you had to use your faith versus faith? F-A-I-T-H, faith versus F-A-T-E. You know the song Qui Sera Sera, what would be would be. and then you looked at the odds and said, I'm going to go against the odds, and your faith turned around the situation. Can you share one or two practical experiences? I know you have several, but just share.
What easily comes to mind? I was doing a job that wasn't the ideal at the time. I knew already that I was ready for a change and all. And what I like to do, I would like to settle all of my decisions, my career decisions first with God before I take a move. And for that particular season of my life, I had discussed the move and I felt a strong leading that it wasn't time. Every time that I would pray, I just felt this strong leading that it wasn't time and all. As soon as I got the word that it was time, I did not wait for an interview. I did not wait for an available opportunity. I'll tell you what I did, talking about faith over faith. I got a new box and I started shopping new clothes that I wasn't willing to wear until I got a new job. And when they would ask me at home, why are you buying these things? I'm like, for my new job. Oh, are you interviewing? Not yet, but it's going to come. And then with my colleagues at the time, I would joke around with them and say, oh, you better use me now that I'm here, because the time is coming where you will see me no more. And they would ask, oh, what do you have planned off your sleeve? And then the rumor started going around the office that probably I was interviewing for a new job. I had a new opportunity. At the time, Mr. Purpose, there was nothing in the horizon. It eventually got to my boss, who called me. I was pretty close to my boss. And he was like, I thought I would be the first to know if you were looking to make a change. But thankfully, he's also a child of God. He's also spiritual. And I told him, I said, but we say faith is the evidence of unseen realities.
It was news based on what you heard in the secret place about a secret.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I'll give you another instance. This is very funny. This has nothing to do with career. You're talking about faith over faith. The secret is, and friends who know me know this, I am not moved by the things that happen around me. I'm not moved by the digits in my bank accounts, whether they are small or not. I'm not moved by the physical realities around me. I am moved by what is possible with God. I'll give you a typical example. I was driving one day and my gas tank was running low, or my petrol tank was running low. And I was like, Lord, I need fuel. I saw an empty filling station. That was during the forest scarcity and all. I saw an empty filling station. I parked and I went in. There was no activity, Mr. Purpose. I just saw one or two people hovering around. I parked the car and I walked in there and I told them they have what I needed. I left there with fuel. I don't even have into the details.
Now, let me take you back memory lane. That you've always been that girl that had capacity for faith to believe the impossible. Now, let me take you back memory lane. You remember this very clearly. We're both at KICC, winning with the conference.
I remember.
You're about to hear one of the craziest stories ever. We're at the conference together. Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo was the host here in Lagos, Maryland, and the conference was over. He launched a book, Be the Best. I bought it. Yes, and he was doing personal autographs on that book that day. And two of us were about to leave. I had bought mine. So I asked you, did you get a copy? And you told me, you know, because of what you just said now, that you're not moved by the digits in your bank account. Ladies and gentlemen, this young girl, 18 years old at that time, or 19 years old at that time, then I said, come, Iddy, we just learned about faith. Do you believe that even without enough money, you can get this book? And then you looked up at me and said, Noah, thank you. I believe. And then you join the line. Ladies and gentlemen, the line, we
It
had
was a
well over
long line.
1,000. There were a lot of people on that
Oh,
line with the
oh my
book in
goodness,
their
I remember.
hands. You had to join the line with the book in your hands so that Pastor Matthew Ashimolo would sign on your book. And you joined the line with no book in your hands. And the line kept moving. It took almost an hour, I remember, because I waited for you. It took almost an hour for you to get to your turn. And then when it was almost your turn, one of the protocols, of the man of God looked at you and like, hey, young lady, you don't have a book in your hands. When you get off the line, what are you doing here? So can you take us through that experience and what was going through your mind that day? What made you stay through that process? Then let's finish
First
this
and foremost,
story.
yeah.
Some people were wondering, so did she get the book? Just hold on.
Oh yes, I got the book, and
She got the book.
maybe I never quite appreciated you for that push. So publicly, thank you.
Oh, wow.
It was
Thanks.
helpful. Yes, it
Yeah.
was helpful that you were waiting. You were giving me the moral boost that I needed at the time and all. And like I told you, um, I believe I believe anything is possible in the realm of the kingdom. And interestingly, he had just taught us the same thing, that
Yeah.
you will get whatever you desire. That was an
Yeah.
opportunity to put it to test. At the
Yeah.
time, I remember that the cost of that book was 2,000. It was a lot of money at the time.
Morning,
I didn't
2003 or 2004.
yeah, I didn't have that
Wow.
money at all. And I joined the line. And I remember that when it got to my turn, he asked me, where is your book? And I told him I didn't have any. So why are you on the line? I remember that my response was, you just told us that whatever we desire, we will get. I desire to have this book because I know it will make an impact in my life. And that's why I
Yeah.
joined the line. You remember what he did? He said, if you really
Yeah.
want the book, you have to go back and join the line.
The thing again.
And I had to start all over again, like
All over
another
again.
hour.
And he was looking out for you to see whether
But
you would really
I
do
was
that.
still on the
It
line.
was a test.
I
It
started the
was a
line
test.
all over
Again.
again, all over
Yeah.
again. The crowd of people. I joined the line, and when I got back to Pastor Matthew, he said, you again? I said, yes, I'm back here. And then he turned to someone, one of the people who were selling the book. He said, give this young lady a book and take
Whatever.
whatever she gives to you. That is a kingdom principle.
Yeah. I think I
And take
remember
whatever.
I remember the amount you were with, but I would not mention it right here.
But I think it's okay. I think it's okay. It's part of the story. Because
Yeah.
apart from my transport fare, all that I could spare was 100 naira.
Oh, you see, I remember you had 200 naira on you at
Yes, that
that
was
time.
for transport. 100 was for
That was,
transport. 100
the
was
book
free.
the book was
2,000.
2,000 naira. So for those who don't understand what we're talking about, the cost of the book was about 100% much more than the amount she had. But
More than
faith,
100, 1,900% more than the amount
yes,
I had.
yeah, and that right there is the power of faith. That when your faith says yes, God won't say no.
No,
That's a quote by
no.
the late Archbishop Benson Idahosa. When
Yes,
your faith says yes, God won't say no.
no.
Wow. So
Keep us
at what
taking
point
back memory lane.
but that never left me because there was the sun, there was the crowd, there was the temptation to like, you know what, let's just get out of here. I can borrow yours another time, which I will be willing to.
Of course.
But I was so inspired by that decision. And I was like, wow, this lady is going to have a great life if she maintains this rugged, ruthless faith. Because on my own, tonight is not about me. So let me just leave my own faith stories out of the way. So let's talk about when you began to align on your career path. At what point did you realize that, okay, yeah, the jobs that began to open began to align with your potential, with your personality, and also with your purpose, and also the pay package was also very good, or let me say above average. So like, after how many years did this begin to happen? Can you give us
Roughly.
some?
Okay.
Yeah.
It was pretty easy for me. And I would explain the reason why I say that. Like I told you, whilst in school, I had already discovered my path. I'd already discovered my skills, not my path. I was still unclear. I was still unsure, sorry, what my career path was going to take. Because I just studied a course that I always knew I was never going to work with, or an industry I was never going to work in. So I was unsure what path my career was going to take. But as soon as I took the available job, I started to give it all and I started to volunteer. That's when I discovered there was a department called Human Resource. And I started to watch and study what they do. And it piqued my interest. I started to volunteer for admin responsibilities. I started to volunteer for HR responsibilities when it came up. I remember that at one time, when we were looking at opening a branch in Izikofo Abayomi, I volunteered to work with HR to set up the whole branch. I didn't need to do that. I remember going to do all of the shopping, going to the market. And when I'm saying market, I'm not talking about the mall. I'm talking about, for those who Lagos, I'm talking about Balogun markets, dragging stuff, yes, and all.
Wow.
But I was willing, because for me, that was like a peep into a department that caught my interest, into a profession that caught my interest. And it was at that part, doing what was available, I suddenly discovered that, okay, I could do this, not just because it's attractive, but because it's aligned with my innate abilities. And what were my innate abilities? I'd already discovered that I'm a people's person, which was the reason I wanted to do mass communication in the first place. I discovered it was easy for me to deal with people. I discovered that HR would give me an opportunity to coach, to counsel, to make a difference in the life of people. And that was my goal anyways. That was my personal vision, to always make impact in the lives of the people that I met along my life's path. So when I discovered that, I said, okay, this is what I was going to do. I kept volunteering until an opportunity opened. The opportunity
Okay.
that opened was not HR, it was admin.
Okay.
I
Oh
stumbled
wow.
on an opportunity, a company that was looking for someone in the admin department. I said, okay, this is closer to HR than sales, which was what I was doing at the time. I seized the
Yeah.
opportunity. I took it. And that was it. So for me, when did I finally get that job or that position that aligned both purpose and in terms of the revenue, the income, and all of that? It would interest you to know I was already a success as soon as I began my career in HR. It was never about the position, it was never about the pay. It was doing what I loved. It was
Wow.
never. So for me, as soon as I started the career of my choice, I had already succeeded. I was already successful. It didn't matter the title, it didn't matter the position. And with that mindset, it would interest you to know that I've had a very checkered career. It's not been just smooth sailing at all. In this place where I was talking about, because of commitment, because of resilience, determination, hard work, and all of those, I gave it everything, that I was able to transit into the HR department easily. And within the HR department, I was also able to transit into higher roles in the company, but it was a small.
Heidi, your audio seems to be muted. Heidi, can you hear me? Your audio is muted. muted. Your audio seems to be muted.
Can you
Okay, it's
hear me
back.
now?
Yes,
Okay.
it's back now.
I remember, I was just saying that I remember that I've had to take positions that are lower. I've had to change jobs with little or no change to salary, but just
Wow.
because it would take me closer to where I wanted to get to. There was a time that people thought I was crazy. I took a job that had only 10,000 difference in terms of remuneration. And they were like, you had
Wow.
better off staying in your previous place. But I said, no, I said the exposure was broader, was wider. It was all about the experience. But like I said previously, you know how God is. I've always believed that God is faithful. I've always believed that God is not wicked. And I've always believed the verse of the Bible that says that he's a rewarder of those who diligently. God rewards diligence. And that's why I
Right
believe
now,
that way leads unto way, and way has led unto
yeah.
way.
On a
And
lighter,
where I am
on
in my journey.
on a lighter note, from your story now, I just realized that God placed something of great value so close to you. But if you had realized it back then in school, you would have been reading my textbooks all the time you were in LASU. Oh, sorry, I mentioned university. Because I was studying the exact course
Yeah,
that you can navigate into.
absolutely.
And now, in retrospect, that could have just been one of the reasons why we met,
Possibly.
to possibly, looking back in retrospect,
Yeah.
because I usually tell people today that everything that you need to succeed on God's path is already on that path, waiting for you to recognize,
I agree.
waiting for you to recognize it. So let's go a bit into the Bible. When Ruth connected with her mentor Naomi and they returned to Bethlehem, remember Bethlehem means the house of bread and the house of life. Why did Naomi leave Bethlehem in the first place? There was scarcity of bread, there was famine, right? So let me just quickly say this to anyone. Don't leave your place of purpose or place of assignment because there's a temporary scarcity of what you call riches or prosperity, or like what we heard from Iddy now. She changed some jobs to enhance our possibilities of getting better opportunities irrespective of the pay. So back to the story of Ruth and Naomi. When they returned to Bethlehem, the path that brought Ruth into the great story of Jesus was that what looked like an ordinary path, but she was just walking every day on Boaz's field, unaware that this same field where she walked like a workaholic with so much productivity was the same field God had laid the person that will change her life story. So I say to everyone that dares to follow, if you find God's plan for your life, it will not look attractive at the beginning. But if you are able to overlook the perceived low worth of value of that path, and you press in, you press through, on the other side is a shining great glory just waiting for you. So please go after God's purpose, go after God's plan. Go, if you don't know what it is, by a divine revelation, discover what your interests are, discover your
Exactly.
personality, discover
Exactly.
where your personality points to, and how you can add value to either people or that industry or that organization from your personality. We have a course, by the way, ID may interest you to know. We have a course that you just amplify, which is discovering your personality makeup. Is
Okay.
one of the courses at the Purpose Discovery Academy. And today, to the glory of God, for those watching and meeting us for the first time, you can download the Purpose Discovery Academy on your mobile phones as a mobile application and go through the 6 video lessons available. These are self-discovery courses that will help you identify who you are, what you have, where you ought to be practicing your purpose, and how you ought to be doing that. So there are 6 courses there. The first one is discovering you. The second is understanding purpose. There are 10 things purpose will do in you and for you, and they are all letter P's. The first is that purpose will prepare you for opportunities. The second is, if you stay focused on God's purpose, it will protect you from distractions. It will also protect you from destructions. It will also now protect your focus, because when you focus on God's focus for your life, in due season, He will now make you the focus of men. The third is that purpose preserves you. It preserves your identity, your abilities, your functionality, and your personality. There are 7 other things that purpose does for you, but it comes with an understanding. Then personality makeup is what has re-echoed in your story. You were able to look within, and from what you found within yourself, you were able to bring out treasures that you traded with in the marketplace, and they opened up wonderful opportunities for you. I remember when you told me that you were hopping up out of Lagos and you were headed to PortnHarcourt, and I said, "Gang, gang, 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 gang." Here she goes again. A new chapter in this great story. But let's move away from your HR adventure into the side of you that many people may not be aware of. You also write. You're an author today. Tell us about some of the books that you have authored and how our viewers can get them.
Okay, I have 2 books on Amazon. One is Streams of Inspiration, is a collection of poems and sounds, and the other is Crackles, which is a collection of poems. I am sure I've shared quite a number of poems in different platforms, and I know that it has blessed quite a number of people. I'm sure that you'll be inspired. The inspiration for those books has always been from personal experiences and from the inspiration of God. And for everyone who has had an encounter, I know that they have either been empowered, inspired, or enlightened about certain areas of their life. So I encourage you to go get it.
Okay, you heard that. Streams of Inspiration and Crackles. I will look for that Crackles because it just cracked me up a bit. Crackles. I like the title. All right, so let's move away from that. We're getting into the home zone now. Home zone is where we now begin to tie up this conversation. It's impossible on this journey for you not to have made some mistakes, and then you took away from those mistakes lessons that now became your wisdom bank. So you can draw from your wisdom bank and advise young people. So how would you, let's say this way, share with us 3 mistakes and 3 lessons in your HR career path, or maybe generally in life. 3 mistakes, 3 lessons. You are currently on the 3rd floor. You are in your 3rd decade, right? So let's say, okay, first mistake under 10. I'm just joking. Let's keep it within the HR space. 3 lessons, 3 mistakes that you have made. And second question in that is, what are the common mistakes new employees make on the job, and how can they avoid it?
I'll take the second question first and all. I will just speak, I won't speak to just new employees. I will speak generally. Lessons that I have, observations that I have made in my career. The first would be, 1, what I would advise colleagues, employees, everyone working in one place or the other, is always remain intentional. Remain intentional about building and expanding your professional connections. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. So for me, it's just to remain intentional about personal development. I think that is very key. Remain intentional about professional development. And then another thing, it's funny that what I'm about to say is you will have to realize that no one company can meet all of your expectations. Because I see that is where a lot of people become disillusioned and become grumpy. And that's where dissatisfaction and depression start to set in. No one company
can meet all of
your expectations. So always be clear. From the day there was a quote that also inspired me, that as soon as you begin a process, you should set an end date. If you have such a mindset, then you know it's not forever. Then you are more conscious about what you can take out of that opportunity, out of that event, out of that company, and out of that season of your life. So it's no longer about
can meet all of your expectations.
And if you know that, naturally it will follow that you will prioritize your personal development. And why do you need to do that? Is so that you remain competitive in the marketplace. And you should be willing to pay for your personal development. I've heard people say, they won't train me. It's funny, right?
That's the mindset of an entitled person, entitled employee. Absolutely. Because they are not bearing your surname. The employer is not bearing your surname.
Train you. But how much are you willing to invest in yourself? And that investment will keep you relevant in the marketplace. Another thing is be open to constructive feedback. Be open to constructive feedback. It means that you must have an attitude to keep learning. You must have a learning attitude. And then you must prioritize your health. It's funny that it's an HR person saying this, but I like to say that manage your stressors. Prioritize
your health.
I told a friend today, I said, life is bigger than work.
Life is bigger than work. If Unaya is a, please help me type that for everyone to see. Life is bigger than 9 to 5. Than work. Life is bigger than work.
We had a conversation today. I said,
we might have to have you twice next year during SWAP because you are too loaded for just one session.
It's a pleasure, and I'll look forward to it. But actually, that life is bigger than work. So you must manage and prioritize your health.
So were there times at the beginning of your, desire to climb up the ladder and all of that, you forgot yourself, you were always buried in work, slept up on the laptop, woke up in front of the laptop, dashed into the bathroom, got to the office first, closed late, and that cycle went on, and then maybe for some strange reasons, the promotion you were slaving away from didn't come your way that year, and you became grumpy and like, with everything I put into this company, and then your health was suffering. Was there any season like that for you? And then did they now give you?
Absolutely.
Oh wow.
There was. I'll share. This is a real story, a true story. There was a season where we were working on several projects at the time, where we had to work overnight. I'm not saying we had to work late into the night. I'm saying we had to work overnight, all through the night and all. And yes, there were seasons where I jeopardized my health and even my security, where you would get home late and all of that. But something happened to me which changed my perspective. I fell ill, like you were saying. I had a bad case of malaria and typhoid, and I had to be away from work for up to 3 weeks. Work went on.
And work went Work went on. Work went on. That's what I usually tell people. Now, I don't encourage laziness or being a saboteur at your workplace, but at the same time, there's something called work-life balancing. Not just work-life balance, balancing with ing at the end of balance, because there's a skill to still jostle. There will be times whereby definitely you still have to stretch yourself at times, but you must still be able to balance it. Number one, nothing must take the place of God. Nothing must take the place of your prayer time. Nothing must take the place of your family. If you are married, if you are not married, nothing must take the place of the most important relationships in your life before that work began.
Absolutely.
Right? You mustn't dishonor your father or your mother or your covenant friendships in the name of, I'm doing a job, I have a job. All of you clear to one side. Because, God forbid, if that person is fired from that job, it's still the same people. Life will go on, but it's still the same people that will help you clean up, that will, for those who can encourage you, they would encourage you. And for those who will tell you, we told you, because they're usually that one person who will not be very nice or tactful with their words. But we need all manner of people in our lives to bring out the best version of ourselves. You know, like Dr. Mike Murdoch, I know one of your favorite authors and speakers too. You know, Dr. Mike Murdoch would say that God prepares you for the enemy without with the enemy within. God prepares us for the enemy without with the enemy within. So the enemy within usually are the people in your either background or initial environment where you were trying to cut your teeth, and they maybe did not believe in you, so they criticized you a lot. You saw it as negative feedback, negative criticism, but God was using them to prepare you for the real stuff out there, for the real criticism at work or on social media. For you now, Iddy, you come into your season of celebrityship. You know, if there's any word like that. And some of the things that people might begin to write on social media will not get to you so much because you've paid the price. You've developed strong capacity. Your spirit is in an intimate place with God. You draw your self-esteem from what the Father says to you. So you are not easily moved from external voices. And that's very important, especially if you are a woman that is thriving in the marketplace or that wants to thrive using God's principles in the marketplace. Absolutely. Because the marketplace has a lot of crocodiles, a lot of scavengers, a lot of negative policies, agendas that are sponsored from the other kingdom, you know, subtlety to get you to backslide, to compromise on your faith, you know. So all of those things exist in the marketplace. So how do you advise women who want to fulfill God's purpose for their lives? How do you advise them to go about it in the workplace? So what would you, if you could give them maybe a template, or maybe if, you know, I like to use 5 keys, 5 steps, those kind of things. But what would be Iddy's secret recipe to success as a woman in the marketplace, whatever industry that woman is planted?
Okay. Drawing from my personal experience, I would say see no limitation. See no limitation. Be very clear what your personal goals are in terms of your career goals. Be very clear. And you must define your personal brand. I like to say that wherever I work, I am first a professional and a colleague. I don't see gender. So I also don't ask for I do not ask for favors. I like to pull my
Because you are a
weight. And I
woman.
like to, yes, I like to
Yeah.
pull my weight. I like to bring value to whatever team or whatever tasks that I am given. So pull your weight, do the work, do the work. Define what your personal brand is. Be very definite about your purpose. See no limitation, because we can do anything that we set our hearts to do. We can do anything we set our hearts on. That would be
Wow.
it. If I have to reiterate again, be very clear about your goals, whether your personal or career goals. See no limitations and pull your weight. Do your part.
Add value.
Add
I
value.
love how you said you're first a professional and a colleague.
Yes.
The gender is not a uh, is not a yardstick for how you walk around in that space, and that's a good mindset to have, because there are some industries that are male dominated, and if you are a woman and you want to thrive in those industries and you don't do what I call like a mental makeover, a mind makeover before you get into those spaces, you might begin to waver or not really be able to pull your weight like you just said. I have two more questions so that we can let you go. Thank you so much for investing your time to
My
educate,
pleasure,
empower,
Mr. Purpose.
inspire us, inspire our audience. I'm seeing a lot of comments. Somebody said we need her more than once. That's Naya Eze. Yeah,
Thank you,
with
Naya.
the emoji.
It's a pleasure to
So,
be here.
so, uh, so Heidi, I know you love scriptures so much. I know you love reading the Bible. We talk a lot about the Word of God. So, can you share on the public space your favorite Bible characters? 3 women in the Bible, or 3 Bible characters that are your favorite that influenced who you are today.
Okay, thank you for saying Bible characters, because it's a mix of both male and female. The first is David. Oh, I love
I knew
David.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I love David. Love his. I love. I love his heart. I love the heart of David. It is God-centered. David lived to do the will of God. He owned his weaknesses and he was honest with himself. David is one of those people who lived the quote I said earlier. He told himself the truth. He was okay with his weaknesses and he was very vulnerable with God. Then maybe because I like to write, like I said, I've written a collection of Psalms and all. I love the way he expresses himself. I love David. I absolutely love David. I could go on if we could turn this whole conversation to David, but I'll just leave it there. Then another Bible character that comes to mind is Nehemiah.
Oh wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yes. I often say, especially in my church, I tell them that if Nehemiah was alive today, I would certainly have a crush on him. I love the content of his character. If you want a lesson in integrity, just as you will go to Daniel for excellence, we should go to Nehemiah for integrity. Think
Oh
about it
wow,
in
okay.
purpose. A servant, he was taken as a slave into a strange land, and he found his way into the palace working for the king. The Bible records that the very first time that Nehemiah frowned, everybody took notice because that was unlike him. They asked him, "What is it about your countenance?"
Wow.
And he told them that his people were suffering back home. And the king asked him, "What do you want?" He asked for a favor to go back home, to build the temple of
Walls of
God, to settle his people, and that he will come back.
contact.
They trusted him enough to release him and give him all of the resources that he required, he went back. I'm saying back home because in this era of Jackpot, he went back home. He did all he said and all he committed to do, to the extent that they elected him as governor when he had achieved all of his purposes and successfully delivered on the project. He resigned as governor and went back to
serve the king.
Oh my goodness, talk about integrity. I love Nehemiah. I could do a whole talk on Nehemiah. And then most recently, I would say Joseph, the father of Jesus. And this is quite recent.
Oh, really?
Yes. I was reading it again recently, and it was the Bible was talking about Joseph when he found out that Mary was pregnant. At the time, he wasn't, I don't think he really quite believed it was by the Holy Spirit. The Bible says that he was going to put her away, but he wanted to spare her public embarrassment. Even when he was hurt, he was still kind. Oh! For me, he's become the poster child of kindness, not dealing with people as they deserve, dealing with people graciously. Even in his heart, even at the point where he thought that his confidence had been betrayed, his trust has been shattered, he was still thinking of her. What love can be more genuine than that? In this era where things go bad and we want to go on social media. And
social media,
you know what?
yeah.
Wash.
Yes, fire for fire. Once there's data, people lose all manner of decorum. To the point that now, this generation now sees it as their responsibility to correct the fathers of faith.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just because you have access to their handles. You go there on their page and you type all the gibberish and rubbish that is coming out of the filthy mindset you have. You know, so that's something I just felt we should put out there.
Yeah.
It is totally unethical from a cultural concept, from a kingdom concept, from any angle you want to look at it. Even amongst the among the people that don't believe in our faith, they don't do this kind of things.
Absolutely.
They don't do this kind of things. I've never seen anybody go on social media to correct, you know, the spiritual leaders of their sect.
But you see,
yes, you see it amongst so-called believers,
yeah,
who believe that they have the latest revelation of this teaching, and so the man or the woman of God who has been obviously used by God. We know these people are not perfect people, but we can see that God chose them into these offices and they have served God with the integrity of their hearts for decades. Our social media generation believe it's their responsibility to correct them. I just had to put that out there because somebody might watch this.
That's so sad. That's so sad. Then if I were to sneak in a lady into this mix,
yeah,
I would say it's Esther.
Esther.
And she has personally inspired me with just one thing, one event. When she asked them to pray for her, she's going into the presence of the king. If she dies, she dies. I've carried that attitude. If I perish, I perish. It gets to a point in life where you must take that action courageously. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite our fears.
Yeah.
That is truly courageous. It gets to that point where you say, if I perish, I perish. I'm doing this. And I will tie this to the question you asked about the young lady or the young man out there who wants to pursue a certain path, but is being influenced, whether in the home or maybe with the benefits that the new job offers and all. You must get to a point where you want to pursue your dream and you say, if I perish, I perish. I'm giving it back. So Esther, definitely, if I were to sneak in a lady,
Wow. Thank you so much. And final question from me to you. But before I ask the final question, is there a question you would like to ask Mr. Purpose for the context of this conversation or something else, so that I get to answer it before I now ask my final question?
Not a question, just appreciation. I just want to appreciate you and your very beautiful wife for having
Oh, thank
me
you.
on this platform.
Thank
It's
you.
been a joy
Thank you.
having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wow, that's such a gracious comment. I wasn't even expecting that, but thank you. Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank you. So,
much.
what would you advise the 16-year-old version of yourself if you could go back in time? What would you advise ID at 16? Now, ID, the HR expert, ID, the author, ID, the woman with the insight into God's mind and all of that. So, with the person you are now, what would you have said to the 16-year-old version of you as a final parting word for tonight?
I feel like giving the 16-year-old version of me a big, tight hug because she used to
Oh,
worry a lot. What does the future hold?
oh,
Yeah. So, my advice would be it's okay, relax, it's going to be okay. And I'll follow that up with everything is possible, ID, to them who is. So be not
mm,
afraid to dream big. God is able. God is able to do as far as your eyes can see, and even much more than that. Because at the end of the day, that has been my testimony. I thought I had great dreams, but God has surpassed every dream I have ever
wow.
dared to have. So you will be fine, my dear. You will be fine.
Wow, there you have it, people. Our guest tonight has exceeded our expectations. I have learned a lot. My notes are filled. My wisdom bank has been, what's the word? What's the word? Fresh deposits of wisdom has been made in my wisdom bank. I wish we could go on and on and on and on, but every great takeoff must have a great landing. So
Absolutely.
thank you, Heidi.
Thank
We
you
want to
so
especially
much.
appreciate you. Before we let you go, would you want to speak to those watching on why they should register if they are under 25, or if their parents watching this to register their teenagers or young adults? If you have a teenager or young person between the ages of 15 and 25, you are the person that ID is talking to now. So we're talking about the program SOAR. SOAR is spiritual growth. O is outstanding achievements. A is academic excellence. And then R is raising their self-leadership. It's a virtual group coaching, and it's going to run for 11 months in 2025. And it's strictly for 25 people who have audacious dreams, but just need proper mentoring and coaching. So I did talk to them, talk to those who are watching this video, why they should invest 100,000 naira only in the future of their children. And then we'll have you go for the night.
Okay.
The power of self-investment.
Okay. I'll have you know that if purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. So you must be willing to invest in yourself. One, to discover who you really are, to discover all of your core competencies, all of your skills and abilities. And in the process, discover your purpose, the reason for which God has created you. I promise you that the discovery of purpose will set you for life. And what better opportunity or platform than with Mr. Purpose himself. I've known Mr. Purpose for over 2 decades, and he's been about only one topic, purpose. I dare say he's one of the few people in my network who who has been clear about what he was going to do. And he always knew that it was always going to be about helping people discover their purpose. And in doing that, I've seen him over 2 decades live his purpose. And he's
Wow.
even till date, he's still living in his purpose. Who better to teach you how to discover your purpose than the one who's living his purpose? So sign on if you haven't. Make that investment in yourself today. Don't delay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Coach Iddy, I dare call her that now. Coach Iddy will be taking, with God granting us grace, she's sure to take one of the slots, one of the months. It might be January, but I'll keep that for those who sign up. But she's going to be one of our coaches, and I'm sure she will accept our invitation to come twice next year. So maybe we'll have you in the first quarter, maybe towards the end of the year as well.
I'll look forward.
So yeah. So if you want to see her face again, if you want to glean from her wisdom, go to my bio rather, or you can send us a DM right now. There's a slight discount for the registration if you sign up. If you are on this live right now, you have your discount code, and your discount code is IDDY. That's IDDY, Coach ID. So if you send me a DM tonight and you type IDDY, you get a discount on registration for SOA. So do that right away and then thank me later. Or rather, thank Coach ID for your discount code tonight. ID, thank you. I wanted to keep you.
Thank you.
I wanted to be here till midnight, but I think I have to let you go. Then I have some daddy duty.
No problem. So thank you so much, Mr. Purpose, for having me on. Thank you for Naya Eze. Thank you to your beautiful wife. Thank you for friends who joined in. It's been a pleasure having this conversation.
Tony, I don't know if you are still on the call. Thank you for joining. That's one of our friends way back from university.
All of you, yes.
And all the faithful followers of Coach ID on her own page, on her own network. I saw some of them make comments. Thank you for joining this live conversation. I want to resume again by playing one of the songs of my favorite worship minister, Minister Dunsi Oyekon, as we round up for tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, bye-bye. Thank you.
Hey. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an awesome night. It's been a night of inspiration, a night of insight. A night of impact, a night that will live to remember. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Registration for SOA is ongoing. It closes on the 15th of December. You get access to be coached by me, my wife, the etiquette diva, the Kingdom etiquette coach, Coach ID, personal development coach, Dr. Akinkwelu, the Forbes Council coach member, Mo Oladapo, the top performance coach, Abraham Oshini, a career coach, and 2 other coaches that we reveal in the course of the month. The 100,000 is just a token investment in your own great future. No one comes in contact with us at the Purpose Discovery Academy and their lives remain the same, because we do the inspiration, but God does the transformation. I leave you tonight with 2 words: exceed as you proceed. God bless you, everybody. See you in SOA in 2025.